Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my show. I'm your host, Diana Bewaros, award-winning and best-selling author, as well as women's advocate. You can find out more about me on my website, dianabewaros.com, and I have been working on domestic violence, prevention of domestic violence for the past 12 years, and I have been able to gather a lot of women who were able to share their stories, leave a toxic relationship behind, and build life for themselves. So October is Domestic Violence Prevention Month, and it's really important for all of us to get involved in the war against domestic violence and make sure that we do our part. And because domestic violence is a crime, and every second on a global level, a woman is being killed and children are losing their mother and father also. The cases of domestic violence involving women are 99% compared to men. So it's a really serious issue, and we need to do something about it. I have written a book based on my life. It's called Fire and Ice. It has multiple awards, and it's going to be a movie pretty soon here in Hollywood, Los Angeles. So anyway, today I just want to cover some of the stories of women who weren't very lucky to get out alive, and they were killed by the person who promised to love them, who promised not to hurt them, and the person who promised to keep them safe and to be there for them. It's really sad because so many children are left behind their mother, and we need to, again, do something about it. And recently I interviewed a woman who has been really badly treated after divorcing a rich Greek husband, and it's absolutely unacceptable for the community to do the things they did to her, and I haven't heard from her for the past 5 days, and I'm kind of worried about it. And you can see the interview on YouTube, which I'm going to upload today, and you'll be able to learn her story, which is absolutely devastating, because so many surgeries were performed on her while she was kidnapped in a room in Hollywood, and the surgeries were performed on her head, and she was suffering a lot of damage. And this is a crime against a human being, a crime against a mother, a woman who the only crime she did was she didn't want it to stay, be treated like an object. And no woman should endure such a treatment after she's able to leave and to try to build life for herself. And a lot of women are dealing with this problem because after they leave the abuser, the community, wherever they are, and the abuser is acting like he's the victim and is trying to do everything in his power to completely destroy the life of a woman who didn't want it to take the toxic treatment that she was exposed to. So today I'm going to read some reports global reports during the pandemic and pro se from United Nations, which is violence against women. It's a huge virus, just COVID-19, and we need to it's basically the same thing, and it's absolutely imperative for all of us to understand that nobody is immune, and this could be your daughter, this could be your cousin, this could be your niece, everybody. So make sure that you do your part and you get involved in the war against it. And if you hear somebody screaming or somebody else yelling for help, please do your part and call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. I have it here under this podcast. The phone numbers are 1-800-799-SAFE, which is 7233, and 1-800-787-3224 or 911. And these advocates are available to chat 24/7, as well as you can reach me on my website, dianabellaros.com. So here is some stories which I was able to find and post in my group, National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, from women who weren't, again, lucky enough to get out of domestic violence and an abusive relationship and the end of that. Here is a story. This is, I'm honoring Ashley Marie Lindsay and my unborn daughter, Patience. Written by my dear friend Tara Woodwee, the mom of Ashley. On Friday, July 13, 2012, my daughter Ashley Marie Lindsay and my unborn granddaughter Patience Lynn were killed in a brutal act of domestic violence. Ashley was engaged and living with a man named Joshua Mahaffey. They had a roommate as well, a man by the name of Joshua Scott. On April 27, 2012, Ashley discovered she was pregnant. By the time May rolled around, Ashley was beginning to open up to us about Joshua Mahaffey's abuse. We encouraged her to leave, and she did for about a week before going back to him. During that week, both Joshua Mahaffey and Scott showed up at my home trying to break in. The police were called, but Mahaffey fled on foot and was not caught. He contacted Ashley and made promises to get help and quit drinking, as she wanted desperately to believe. So like I said, she went back. Within 2 weeks' time, she had left again. She hid at a friend's house and contacted on one of her 5-day period. Meantime, both the Joshua were calling me looking for Ashley, claiming that she just disappeared. We had not heard from our daughters within 2 days. I was in panic. We filed a missing person report with the sheriff's department once we did that Joshua Mahaffey just disappeared. I thought for sure he had killed my daughter. When she did turn up, Ashley informed us that she had left a note and that Joshua knew she had left him. She had no idea that he wouldn't tell us of the note in which she told him to not look for her at her parents' house because she wouldn't be there. She figured out he could read me the note and know from it, and she was laying low and would contact me when she could. She contacted the police to release the alert. The deputy got on the phone with me and said she was all right but bruised. She was pressing charges on Mahaffey. We met her within an hour, and what I saw was painful. Ashley was so thin she was sick from lack of food. Even 6 days after the fight, her bruises were apparent. She had a black eye, bruises on her arms where you could see his handprints, bruises on his wrist, and one on her left hip to stomach area. The details were horrific. The first week she was back was all sweet and kind. He was an angel. The next week, he started drinking again. They argued, turned into slapping, and as the week progressed, it got worse. Finally, Ashley had enough and wanted to leave. He wouldn't let her. He punched her in the eye. She fell to the floor, and he kicked her in the stomach, claimed if she was leaving, she wasn't going with the baby. He grabbed her by the arms and shook her around like a rag doll, and they shoved her head through a wall, saying she was going nowhere. He then tied her up so she couldn't leave and had her like that through the night till the next day, until she convinced him she wasn't going to leave. The only thing he accepted as the proof of her love and devotion was sex. Until she agreed to sex, she was not united. All the while, Joshua Scott watched the abuse and never called the police. The next day, when the Joshuas went to work, Ashley grabbed what she could, left a note, and hid. I asked her why she didn't come home. She said that Mahaffey made it clear that if she come home, he would kill us all. She believed him. She wouldn't even go home with her father. And then when he begged her to, slowly she revealed over the time the abuse she endured with me. The slapping, he loved to slap her. Josh put her head through a wall 3 different times, burned her multiple times with cigarettes, shook her like a rag doll, threw things at her, called her dumb, fat, and ugly, got her fired from 2 jobs because he didn't trust her to be out of his sight. Once, he even stabbed himself multiple times to keep her from leaving, ripped her clothes off of her in front of the roommate to humiliate her, and on the other time, the middle of the road to stop her from leaving. He took away her birth control because he wanted her pregnant. The list goes on. For the next month and a half, Ashley spent hiding from friend to friend. Joshua McAfee was well hidden by family and friends. We discovered that he had an extensive criminal record, which included 2 years' worth of open warrants for violating POs on the other women he abused and for assault with a deadly weapon. Now with Ashley's charge in it, a felony assault, I took Ashley to the court and we filed for the emergency PO. Ashley also contacted the closest crisis center to get help and counseling, but there was no local shelter for her to go. McAfee kept getting Ashley's number. I changed her phone number 3 different times during that course of over a month. When he couldn't reach Ashley, he would call and text me anywhere from 5 to 50 to 20 times. This went on even though I quit answering and responding to him. Then he started creating Facebook page after page, faking names, using Ashley's friends to try and find her. Desperately, we kept reporting information to the sheriff's department. On July 2012, he sat outside her house calling and threatening her and her roommates. The sheriff deputy was called and more charges were filed. After 1 hour conversation we had on the phone with a deputy in which he threatened to kill Ashley and himself. The following day, he called her work and threatened to kill everyone there if they wouldn't put Ashley on the phone. Again, more charges were added by the deputies. Her father and I were so desperate we spent that weekend searching for him. We went to business showing his picture, begging people that if they saw him to call the police. Ashley was so stressed she became very ill on the top of her morning sickness. She had several days off in a row, so I sent her to my mom's for a few days to recover. On her way to Grandma, she called me screaming and crying. She insisted that he was going to kill her and she would never get away from him. She begged me to help hide her. I begged her to come home, but she wouldn't. She was sure he would kill her sister and I. She would risk us. That is when she informed me that the threat includes his raping us as well. Wednesday, July 12, Ashley went back to her friend's house and back to work. Over the next 2 days, Ashley, her crisis advocate, her DA advocates, and I worked together and came up with a plan for her to enter a shelter an hour away where no one would know where she is. Till Joshua was caught. She wanted to finish her work week and go to the shelter when she got off work the next Saturday. Saturday didn't come soon enough. Friday, July 13, 2012, truly became the unluckiest day of my life. About 1:45 p.m., Ashley was saying goodbye to her roommates, fixing to leave for work when Joshua McAfee broke in through the front door and his roommate Joshua Scott broke in the back door. Ashley had nowhere to run, so she locked herself in the bathroom. McAfee kicked in the door, knocking her to the floor, and then shot her in the shoulder. She tried to block the second shot but couldn't. The teen and killed himself. Meanwhile, Joshua Scott tried to threaten Ashley's roommates. One of them got away and called the police. Ashley was still alive and was flighted to a hospital. I will never forget my daughter's face. Her beauty was forever ruined. Her face was distorted from the massive swelling, her eyes black and blue, speckles of blood, spots like blood blisters all over the face. Ashley's right hand was so burnt from trying to block the last shot that it was burned down to the elbow. The nurse had to brown back that hand as evidence. At one point, she went cold blue, and I had to make the painful decision to have her revived. Jim was with me in the room as they brought Ashley back. I made the choice, hoping for my little patience. We waited, then doctors came in and said she would never recover, and there was nothing they could do. We waited for OB-GYN specialists to see if she could be kept on machines long enough to give patients Lynn a chance. The sonogram revealed the baby's heart was falling, and once they knew little patient was truly gone, I was left alone with my daughter. Ashley's poor little body had been through enough. I could see the scars on her arm, 5 to 6 of them from Joshua burning her from the cigarettes. I took her blood-stained hand into mine and brushed what little of her hair not soaked in blood. I bent down close and I said, if you're holding on for the baby, you don't have to any longer. If this is too hard, it's okay for you to go. It's all right. Don't worry about your mommy, and I'll be okay. Within 15 seconds, she crashed, and I had the nurse get her dad and sister. Ashley passed away in a peace and quiet. Later, we were all told Joshua Scott had been arrested. He had killed his mother's boyfriend, a man named Chad Page. He stole his car so he could pick up McAfee, who was hiding hours away, to drive him clear back. They met McAfee's mother, who gave them money, gas, and beer, even though she knew the police were looking for him. Joshua McAfee and Joshua Scott hunted down Ashley, broke in, and killed my beautiful girl. After her death, so many of Ashley's friends came forward about the domestic violence that they were enduring. Many left their violent partners, and a few needed help. Now Ashley's story is being passed on, and it's helping to save so many lives. If you or someone you love is being abused, take it seriously. Get help. 1 in 3 women in her lifetime will experience domestic violence. You're not alone. So this is just part of the stories today I was able to find and read to you, and it's absolutely devastating. It shows how much we need to start working on that, and this is happening on a global level. And one of the reasons is because women are perceived to be subservient to men, which is not the case, and we all know about that. So it's absolutely important, very important, for this issue to be solved, because again, I see it like a COVID-19 pandemic. It's just a virus. So I'm going to read just a little bit of 13 minutes to the end of the show, and you can find out more about my story on my website, dianabellaros.com, with my books. And I'm going through a lot of pressure because of what I'm trying to accomplish. I don't know why it's this big war with women who are trying to stop domestic violence and abuse, who are trying to send awareness, and who are trying at the same time to build life for themselves. And I'm dealing with I'm dealing with a lot of the things that I shouldn't be dealing, and you can, again, find out more about me on my website, dianabellaros.com, and it's absolutely, absolutely unacceptable to be put in this position, especially when you live in the United States of America. So anyway, here it is an article, Reports of Domestic Violence on the Rise During Pandemic. Study finds the conditions created by COVID-19, unexpected time at home, unemployment, and financial insecurity, anxiety, and stress are the same conditions known to aggravate domestic violence. Recent research from 2 BYU economists published in the Journal of Public Economics confirmed that reports of domestic violence have risen sharply since the start of the pandemic. Analyzing public police records from 14 large U.S. cities such as Baltimore, Salt Lake City, and New Orleans in March, April, and May 2020, Professor Emily Leslie and Riley Wilson discovered 7.5 increase in domestic violence-related 911 calls compared to spring 2019. They saw an even steeper increase of 9.7% during just the first 5 weeks of widespread physical distancing, including the time preceding official stay-at-home orders when people stopped going out because of uncertainty about the coronavirus. Our results, which are in line with other emerging studies about domestic violence trends, suggest that the change is caused by a combination of all these stressors happening at once, said Dr. Leslie. Their findings emphasize the reach of pandemics, ripple effects, and the destructive nature of domestic abuse. Disturbingly, the data suggested that the pandemic has produced many new offenders. Reports coming from city blocks with no previous record of domestic violence were the main drivers of the increase. The rise in reports was also found across the full spectrum of the city populations with no significant differences among lower and higher income areas, and the cause occurred most often on weekdays when families' routines were most disrupted by the new norms. In terms of domestic violence, we might have expected to see the pandemic have a bigger effect for those who are more vulnerable in the labor market, but we saw large effects for all the subgroups we were looking at, said Leslie. The pandemic has really hit hard across the board. The apparent increase in domestic violence, a widespread problem even before the pandemic, has dire consequences for both its victims and the nation. And the numbers from the study can be applied across the U.S. if you would mean that in the early weeks of pandemic there were 1,330 more domestic violence calls per day than it's typical. The short-term increase in financial costs for immediate medical treatment, for example, would be about 5.7 million every day. But taking the long view, the researchers said the cost is much higher. If we're involved in domestic violence, observed Dr. Wilson, research shows is likely to impact your future employment opportunities and growth in employment, as well as your children and other outcomes. Those are all things that are very costly, and it's difficult to quantify the full physical, mental, and emotional toll of domestic violence. As more research is done on domestic violence during COVID-19, Leslie and Wilson hope that the patterns they're identifying will be helpful for policymakers. Anything that society or the government can do is alleviate the stress households are under. Financial stress, healthcare stress, uncertainty is going to do more than make people feel better or put food on the table, said Leslie. It's also probably going to keep people in a safer environment. So it's worth keeping a broad perspective on what policies like that could do for us. So this is what has been going on, and this article is written in August 21st, 2020, not long ago, and we definitely need to turn our attention to how to help these families so we can diminish the impact of financial crisis, which creates all of these chaos in the family. And this is something we should do, should be more understanding, more loving, more compassionate when it comes especially to the insurance company, which are impossible because I have dealt with them. The only thing they want from you is to give them money and nothing else, and they're very understanding as well. Landlords, they're really nice and really bad landlords. And let's put ourselves, because we are humans, in the shoes of others, and let's help each other, work together as a team instead of pressuring additionally other people. And honestly, the insurance company I have nothing to complain, because most of them have been more gathering than helping people and subtracting from their account. So I could definitely can say that, because here in California you cannot have a car without insurance. They pressure you. They do everything in their power to make sure you get expensive insurance for the cars. And if you never had an accident, it's like gathering money instead of subtracting. So I honestly don't feel sorry for the insurance company. So anyway, violence against women and girls, the shadow pandemic. This is from the United Nations. With 90 countries in lockdown, this is from April 2020, 4 billion people are now sheltering at home from the global contagion of COVID-19. It's a protective measure, but it brings another deadly danger. We see a shadow pandemic growing of violence against women. As more countries report infection and lockdown, more domestic violence helplines and shelters across the world are reporting rising calls for help in Argentina, Canada, France, Germany, Spain, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Government authorities, women's rights activists, and civil society partners have flagged increasing reports of domestic violence during the crisis and heightened demand for emergency shelter. Helplines in Singapore and Cyprus have registered an increase in calls by more than 30%. In Australia, 40% of frontline workers in New South Wales survey reported increased requests for help with violence that was escalating in intensity. Confinement is fostering the tension and the strain created by security, health, and money worries, and it is increasing isolation for women with violent partners, separating them from the people and resources that can best help them. It's a perfect storm for controlling violent behavior behind closed doors. And in parallel, as the health systems are stretching to breaking point, domestic violence shelters are also reaching capacity. A service deficit made worse when centers are repurposed for additional COVID response. Even though COVID-19 existed, domestic violence was already one of the greatest human rights violations. In the previous 12 months, 243 million women and girls aged 15 to 49 across the world have been subject to sexual or physical violence by intimate partner. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues, this number is likely to grow and multiply impacts on women's well-being, their sexual and reproductive health, their mental health, and their ability to participate and lead in the recovery of our societies and economy. White underreporting of domestic and other forms of violence has previously made response and data gathering a challenge, with less than 40% of women who experience violence seeking help of any sort of reporting a crime. Less than 10% of those women seeking help go to the police. The current circumstances make reporting even harder, including limitation on women's and girls' access to phones and helplines, and disrupted public service like police, justice, and social services. These disruptions may also be compromising the care and support the survivors need, like clinical management of rape and mental health and psychosocial support. There also full impunity for the perpetrators. In many countries, the law is not on women's side. One in every country have no law specifically protecting women from domestic violence. If not dealt with this shadow pandemic, we also add to the economic impact of COVID-19. The global cost of violence against women had previously estimated at approximately $1.5 trillion. That figure can only be rising as violence increases now and continues in the aftermath of the pandemic. The increasing violence against women must be dealt with urgently with measures embedded in economic support and stimulus packages that meet the gravity and scale of the challenge and reflect the needs of women who face multiple forms of discrimination. The Secretary General has called for all governments to make the prevention and redress of violence against women a key part of their national response plans for COVID-19. Shelters and helplines for women must be considered an essential service for every country, with specific funding the broad efforts made to increase awareness about their availability. Grassroots and women's organizations and communities have played a critical role in preventing and responding to previous crises and need to be supported strongly in their current frontline role, including with funding that remains in the long term. Helplines, psychosocial support, and online counseling should be boosted using technology-based solutions such as SMS, online tools, and networks to expand social support and to reach women with no access to phones or internet. So we are out of time, and I'm going to try to finish this. I hope I'll be able to. Helplines. The private sector also has an important role to play, sharing information, authoring staff to the facts and the dangers of domestic violence, and encouraging positive steps like sharing care responsibility at home. COVID-19 is already testing us in ways most of us have never previously experienced, providing emotional and economic shocks that we're struggling to rise above. The violence that is emerging now as a dark future of this pandemic is a mirror and a challenge to our values, our resilience and shared humanity. We must not only survive the coronavirus, but emerge renewed with women as a powerful force at the center of the recovery. Totally agree with it. So anyway, this is the situation. I would definitely, it's from UN Women, United Nations, and I definitely support what they do and what they're trying to accomplish here, and it's really pivotal right now at this moment. to get together, to unite, and COVID-19 was here because this was our karmic justice for the things we were ignoring and putting aside for so long on a global level. So you can download this podcast on your favorite device and listen after that. Please share it, get involved, do your part, because this is really important issue. And as I said, nobody is immune, nobody is safe from being exposed to such violent behavior. And if you feel like you're in danger, reach to the phone numbers I shared in the beginning. Let me know how I can help you also. I have been working for the past 12 years. To my childhood, and of course, when I got married, I get in the same situation: domestic violence, abuse, verbal, and everything what you could possibly imagine. So anyway, you can find out more about me on my website, dianabewaros.com. Please stay strong, believe in yourself, have faith, and do everything in your power to be safe. Don't be afraid to leave, and make sure you have a plan and you're ready to leave. And this is the most important part. Make sure that everything is planned. And if you need help, you can always reach to me or reach to the domestic violence hotline, 1-800-799-7233. So thank you so much. I wish you amazing Sunday. My radio show is usually live on Friday, 12:30 p.m., and I'm going to be doing a lot of interviews this week until the end of October. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Check out my books on dianabewaros.com. Download a free gift by registering with your email. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy. Help is free from me. I have done a lot of work for so many women, and I'm absolutely sure I can help you as well. So I wish you all the best. Please be loved. Please be kind, be compassionate. This world needs it a lot, especially right now.